Saturday Spasm, Saturday Spasm, Saturday Spasm. Hey, Board Game Geeks, Brian Hazard here on Gamerati. It's good to be a gamer. This is your Saturday Spasm. Saturday Spasm is where I just talk about games I love and why you should play them. Sometimes they're new, sometimes they're not. Now, it looks like I'm going to talk about Seven Wonders. Obviously, not new. And I do like this game a lot. It's great for a high player count if you got some friends over and they want to get into something. However, although it can be played with two players, it's not ideal in that way. Which is why I'm glad they came up with, hey, Seven Wonders Duel. Seven Wonders Duel is a two-player version of the game, two-player only. And the reason I wanted to talk about it today is because this is the game that Jenny and I, my wife, will play most often if we have an opportunity for a two-player game. We love our Star Realms and our Hero Realms, but this one is quick and easy to set up and easy to play, and it hits the table fairly often compared to the other games that we have. This is the setup for Seven Wonders Duel. I'll be making all sorts of references to Seven Wonders, so if you don't know that one, I apologize. Let me just say, it's a good game whether you've played Seven Wonders or not. It's a tableau building game where you're creating your own civilization to have the most points at the end of the game, but there are a couple other ways to win, and I'll touch on those in just a second. On your turn, each player is required to take, on your turn you are required to take one of the cards that's face up here on the table. You can't take ones that are face down, and you can't take a card that's covered by another card. So you want it, and there's three stages in the game. So you'll put down a set of cards, we'll take all those, put down a second set of cards, take all those, take down a third set of cards, take all those, and then the game is over. So it's just three different ages that are in the game. And the first age very often tends to be about getting as many resources as you can possibly get to make other cards easier to get later on. Each card may or may not have a cost that for you to get your hands on that card. So for example, this card here will give me stone on my turn for the rest of the game, but it'll cost me 1 gold to pick that card up. So if I was this player, I would put that card in front of me on my little tableau, and then the next person would take their turn. Let's say Jenny, my right hand, she decides to take this card. It's a theater, it has no cost to it, and it'll give me 3 points at the end of the game. What's cool is that there's also a symbol up here in the corner, and that symbol means that if you, later on, you find a card that you want to get that has that symbol over here, you get to take that new card for free later. This will be upgraded for free. So once we've both taken a card, there's a spot here where cards aren't covered anymore. They would flip over. There's different kinds of cards to get. There's blue cards that just give you points. There's yellow and gray and brown cards that have the resources up here at the top. But then there's also these science cards. And science cards are important because you may be able to win the game outright, automatically, anytime if you happen to have 6 different science symbols in your civilization. So that's pretty nifty. Furthermore, if you ever have 2 of the same type of science symbol, you may immediately take one of these little chits up here, these discs, that are randomized every game that can give you, like, this one just gives you 7 points. This one is a whole nother symbol. So there's 6 symbols in the cards, but this is another symbol, and you just need 6 to win. So this could push you towards that. So there's different abilities you get as a result of that could be an automatic victory. And that is what's kind of cool about the science cards. Now, as the game goes on, more cards will be taken. This, you can see, gives you a war point. If you get points for war, you move this little token closer to your opponent, and then you'll get some points for wherever it is on this at the end of the game. However, as the game goes on and you get more and more points for war, this will get pushed back and forth as each player gets war points. But I don't know if that's combat points, war points, military points. If you make it far enough down, you'll start making your opponent lose money. There's coins in this game. You start with 7. But you can make them lose money as you get better and better at fighting the war. If you ever make it all the way over to your opponent's side of the war chart, the military scale is so bad. So I'm very sorry to Antoine. I'm very sorry about that. You automatically win. That is your other automatic win victory, is if you make it, if you push the war token. It's just getting worse. over to the end of the board, then you would be that's automatic victory for you at that point as well. If nobody wins in one of those two ways with science or military, then it's just a matter of getting the most points at the end of the game. And as the game goes on, the way I have this set up, it just so happens that none of the free cards are showing. So there's a free card. If that card was available face up, you'd take it and put it in your tableau, and now you have a brick resource available every turn. If you don't have a resource, then you have to pay. Okay, at this point I'm saying things, but none of them make sense, so I'm coming back from the future to fix this. If you don't have a resource, you have to pay the bank 2 gold plus 1 gold for every one of those resources that your opponent has on the brown and gray cards, not on the yellow ones. Here I'm trying to make sense of things I don't understand, and I'm not really sure why I didn't remember this while I was, yeah, look, oh, intense pointing at the opponent. Yes, oh, you have to pay. Anyways, I got it wrong. This fixes it. So throughout the game, you're buying cards from the middle, and you're building them on the side, and as the game goes on, so I mentioned this, right, has a little mask on it, which means that if you were to ever have an opportunity to build, oh, here's a mask. So, if you have this card from the first age, when this card comes up in the second age, you could build it for 2 brick, or you could just get it for free if you already have this building. So it's just a freebie you get to take and put in front of you. Now, if you don't want to build the card that you get during the round, you can just actually take the card out of the middle, throw it away, and take a couple of coins in order to enrich the coffers of your civilization so you have money to do the other things you need to do. The last thing you can do is you can work on your wonders. Each player gets a hand of 4 wonders that they can build throughout the game. And on your turn, if you have enough cards with enough resources on it, you can build the wonder. However, the game is called 7 Wonders Duel, so only 7 can ever be built. And if you're not quick enough about building your 4 wonders, right, then you'll only get 3, because there can only be a maximum of 7 wonders ever built in the game at a time. So you want to watch out for that. That's pretty much the gist of the game, and at the end of the game, you get a lovely scorecard thing, and you write down your score. This was a victory for Jenny there, as you can see. You can write whether or not it was a military victory, or whether it was a science victory. Jenbo and Bry Guy played that day, and she got me for 60 versus 53. So you count up the points you get off of each type of card, and there's some little synergies and combos that happen. That's pretty cool. So that's the base game. We recently picked up 7 Wonders Duel Pantheon, which is the expansion for the game. So Pantheon is a good example of an expansion that adds a little something without getting too complicated to the game. So with Pantheon, you add on this sweet little thing, and I love that it just kind of plugs into the first part of the game like that. Boom. And then throughout the game, you're going to have there's some new wonders you can add to the game, right? You got that. There's a new scorecard because you've got new things to score. And then you've got these gods and goddesses, and they are a part of the game now. They have 3 different decks that kind of go off to the side here while you're playing. And then you've got these little chips. There's some more of these green circle things, because that gets added in. So then you have like these offering chips and these mythology chip things. So in the first part of the game, and these are randomized little chips that look like this, and you put them on cards like this. So now they are on these cards, and if you ever are required to reveal a card with a chit on it, you also reveal the chit. And when you do that, you then take a card from the corresponding pile that matches that chit. You pick 2 of them. You decide which one you want to have in the game, and you put it face down, of course, face down. You put it face down in one of these spaces around the board. Placement is going to matter because the further the card is from you, so if I'm here and Jenny's here, so each space has a cost to be able to use that card later. If I put it near me, it's only going to cost me 3 points, but it's going to cost Jenny 8. If I put it over here, it's going to cost me 8 points, it's only going to cost Jenny 3. So I put that there, and if she draws a card that requires her to put down a green, then she would pick 2, and she'd say, I like this one, and she'd put it there. And there's 5 of those, and you'll notice that there are 6 spaces on the board here. So eventually, after the first age is over, you will have 1 of each type of card here, and 1 blank space. And in the second age, instead of having these chits on the board, you have these chits. And these go on 3 cards during the second age. I mean, I'm not going to set up the second age because that's too much work. But essentially, all these do is serve as discount tokens that allow you to use the special abilities that are now available from the Pantheon above the war scale. And then there's also one more, which is called the Gate. The Gate costs twice as much as whatever it says it's supposed to cost, and it gives you an ability, and I will tell you what that is. Please hold. But if you want to use one of these abilities that these cards give you, you would pay the amount here, and then you get to take this card and put it in front of you, and you have this ability now that you're able to do. So it goes, yes, when you win one of these, you put it in front of you, you immediately activate its ability, and then it stays there in front of you. If you choose to activate the gate, or the door, I should say, instead of one of the available cards, you would then flip over the top card of every one of these decks, choose one of them to activate, and then flip the other ones back face down. So it would be another way to get one of these cards. The last thing that the expansion adds, which is kind of cool, is these new buildings that will give you points at the end of the game. They're grand temples. They replace the guilds in the third age, and you get a number of points equal to how many you've built. So you get 5 points for 1, 12 points for 2, or 3 points, nope, 21 points for 3 of them. So that just sort of changes up the guild aspect of the game and puts a little more focus on this part up here. What's interesting is that if you use the ability to buy one of these cards in the second age, that means you do it instead of taking a card from the center of the board game, which can really change things up, because part of the challenge of Seven Wonders Duel is that you are often trying to figure out which card to take in order to force the other player to take a card that you don't want or that you want them to have to take. Did that make sense? I'm sure it did. But that's part of the challenge of Seven Wonders Duel in general. So having the ability to effectively skip having to draw one of the cards out of the middle is a strategic element that's interesting to play out as the game goes on. So if you haven't figured out that I'm a fraud yet by now, by the way that I was describing the expansion, Jenny and I have not had a chance yet to play with the expansion. We picked it up pretty recently. But I like it, which is why I'm spazzing about it. I think it's a neat idea. I know there's a lot of interesting mechanics, but I swear to God, the number one thing about it that makes me excited is the idea that I could skip a turn and not have to take a card. And that would make such a difference in the flow of the game. The abilities and powers that these have are interesting because they are a little bit different than some of the stuff that was already available in the game. For example, Minerva has her own little red thing that goes on the war scale. Oh, God. Now, Minerva's little red thing makes it so that it stops the movement. You can put it somewhere on the board. So say I'm beating up Jenny militarily, and she decides to put Minerva right here. That means the next time I get to move on the military board, I don't get to move. I just actually lose that shield. So that's a great way of sort of slowing down the military thing. And one of them even lets you steal a scientific symbol from the other player. You put this token down on somebody else's science card, and now you also have that science card ability. Oh, they're falling. They're going down, folks. So, yeah, not a ton of detail, but certainly a game, if you are looking for something quick and easy to play. I know that sometimes we're just too tired to get into anything too fancy on a weekday evening, but we want to play something quick. This tends to be our go-to, and I do recommend Seven Wonders Duel for those who just want a quick go-to game that they can play. It's got a lot of variety built in, and it's pretty easy to learn it, to become familiar enough with it that you feel like you actually know what you're doing and you've got a good strategy going on each time you play. So, any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Be sure to check out Gamerati for all your other gaming news and events. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday with me. I'm Brian Hazard. I will see you on The Geek. Take it easy.